Here we go. I got the right burner this time. So I'm using these plum tomatoes, also called Roma tomatoes. They are probably the best for making sauces in general. They are very popular in Italian cuisine. You can make sun-dried tomatoes out of these. I've also made my own sun-dried tomatoes using the regular round tomatoes, and they're not as tasty as these plum tomatoes for dried tomatoes, but they do work. It's very useful if you have a garden and you've got a few hundred extra pounds of tomatoes over the course of the summer that you're not quite sure what you can do with. So I'm getting ready to cut these up. I'm going to make this tomato chutney a little hotter. So I have got 3 jalapeno peppers from the garden. Now, if hot, spicy hot doesn't agree with you, a very simple thing that you can do. You want to zoom in here and get close. So I have a jalapeno here. Remember those precautions I told you. There's this inside part here, this pithy part. If you cut that inside part out, and again, you don't want to get this on your fingers because this is the part that's going to really burn, and you just use the outer part of the pepper, this is going to be less hot. But I'm going to use the whole thing because, frankly, we're making just a little bit of this and we're making it a little bit more warming. So we're going to use, this is going to be a tomato chutney that is good for, you know, a cuppa, for example. It's going to be more warming. We're going to use mustard seeds, and we're using a little bit more of the chili. We're also using that ginger. And I love ginger, in case you didn't know that already. So here we go. Here's that ginger. So I'm gonna cut up some thin slices of that and mince that. Not quite as much ginger as with the apple chutney, but still, I'm not gonna skimp on that. Okay. There we go. Alright, so that's all ready to go. And I've got my pot preheated here. Our apples are getting softer and they're almost ready to go. Now I made the apple chutney with ghee. I am going to use not sesame oil. We should have some other oil here. Janta, do you see that other oil? There was some other oil.
Well, here's one. Oh, that's sesame. Sesame oil?
Is that sesame oil? Okay, well, we're using sesame oil. That's fine.
It's coconut right there, I think. Is that coconut?
Yeah, sesame oil is going to be okay. This is fine. So the main spice that we're using here is these mustard seeds. I'm going to go ahead and put this oil in here. And I want this oil to get pretty hot. I've got the pot hotter than I had the other one. So these are purple mustard seeds. And this is the one spice that you have to kind of be a little careful about how you prepare it. You notice there's a little smoke coming off of here. I want these to pop. Now, do you want to come over here and get a look here on the top? Okay, do you see this popping? Don't get too close.
Yeah.
Alright, so these guys are just popping like popcorn. You want to be careful because that hot popping is going to spatter some hot oil on you if you're not careful. I put the chilies and ginger and they've all gone in there hot. That's the kind of time frame that you normally have. That's why I've given you this list. Know the orders of the spices because you don't have time to look at a recipe book. You just kind of, okay, here are the things. I want to have them all close by my stove. I'm going to get that oil hot and I want to be ready to rock and roll. Boom, 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 boom. Put the chilies. And once I put the chilies in here, we are good to go. Okay, so now I need hing. Where is the hing?
Hing's right here.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to put a little bit of hing in here. And now we're ready to put some tomatoes in. You can smell the hing, that's getting a little bit of aroma out there. And I don't have to cut these tomatoes up really finely because they are very quick cooking, and these are vine ripened tomatoes. I literally went in there and got down on my knees and I had quality time with my tomato plants this morning, and these guys just came straight and warm off the vine. It doesn't get better than that. Okay. So we're almost done here with our chutneys. So with the mustard seeds, when I was learning to cook, I was told that you don't ever want to have your mustard seeds not pop. Mustard seeds not popping is a bad thing. You want your mustard seeds to pop, otherwise they're not good for you. So that's just what I...
Is that true for the yellow variety as well?
The yellow ones are commonly also ground up, so I'm not entirely sure whether that holds true for those as well. You can cook the yellow ones. If you do cook them, you can use them as I just used them. You will find that they cook much more quickly and they will also burn. So if you use yellow mustard seeds, because these purple mustard seeds are a little harder to find. You do find them sometimes in the supermarkets, they will be, you'll have a little ball you pay $4 for, or you can go and get them from an Indian supermarket. But the yellow mustard seeds will cook more quickly, and they'll also tend to burn. So you have to watch them. They'll cook quickly, they will pop, but they'll also burn. Whereas these actually require a good amount of heat. So now, can you just swing back over here? We are actually pretty much done with our apple chutney. We've had these apples sauteing, and they've become a little soft, not entirely soft, and I'm going to add, finally, just towards the end here, I'm adding a little bit of lemon juice. And then I'm going to add some sugar. I'm using turbinado sugar, unrefined sugar, to sweeten it. You can also use agave nectar to sweeten chutneys as well. It's sometimes not recommended to cook honey. I've never really cooked with honey, but if you want to use an alternative to sugar, you can use agave nectar. So we're going to let this apple chutney cook for just a few minutes longer. And now I'm going to add a little bit of salt to the tomato chutney. I switch back and forth between tomato and tomato. It's a bad habit. I think it's because I spent some time in England and something just stuck with me. So we're going to add a little bit of salt. Salt is a flavor enabler, and not that much salt. Yeah, just a little bit of salt to the tomato chutney. Also, we get a pinch of salt in the apple chutney. So if you come by and take a look at the tomato chutney, you'll see, why don't you all just swing by, and you can see the popped mustard seeds are there, a little bit of the ginger and chili, and the tomatoes are starting to cook. With this small quantity of chutney that we're making, we probably will be done in just a few minutes. Okay, so we are just about at the end, and let's save some of these feast elements for the goats. I just love all that stuff. You know, there's that old myth about goats eating tin cans. They don't really do that, but they like the taste of the glue that they used to use on the labels, or so I've heard. I have a a cousin who writes science fiction and used to keep goats. And so she would tell me all about them. Okay, so that's it. And then the last thing, actually, in just this short time, with this small quantity of tomatoes, our tomato chutney is already done. Our apple chutney is done. So I'm going to, oops, that was the wrong flame. There we go. So I'm going to turn that one off. And the tomatoes in this small quantity are almost all done already. I'm adding just a little bit less sugar. I'm not making it too terribly sweet. There are different, extremes that you can go to in terms of sweetening. I will generally put some sweetening at the end and then let it cook for a few minutes with the sugar finally added. And I'm going to give one last stir to the apple chutney. If you want to swing by and just take a close-up shot of what the apple chutney looks like. So this is our final product. And some chutneys just seem to taste better the next day. There was one chutney that was very popular. As I said, I used to be an ashram cook, and there was a thing that I used to make. It was a fresh coconut chutney, and it was fresh coconuts, fresh cilantro, fresh chilies, fresh ginger, a little bit of yogurt, a little bit of honey, not cooked at all. Fresh chutneys are not cooked. And it was very popular. I used to make a 5-gallon, big 5-gallon tray of that. And there would sometimes be a little bit left over, and it always seemed to taste better the next day. But these cooked chutneys, if you cook them right and you put them in an airtight container and you keep them in the fridge, they can keep for a long time. They can be good for weeks. I don't find that they last that long around our house somehow. These have a way of disappearing. I don't know why. We may have some people going in the fridge and eating them. I don't know. And now our tomato chutney is done. If you want to do a close-up on that. So you can see we've got our tomatoes cooked, and it's kind of it's become a sauce.